You're listening to Film Seizure. This is Geoff.
And this is Jason, and you can catch us on Wednesdays weekly talking about some sort of movie.
Yeah, you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just search for Film Seizure. And as Jason said, check us out each week.
Yes, your Wednesdays should be less crappy because of us, we hope. Maybe. Or more crappy.
Or more crappy.
Who knows?
Either which way.
Wednesdays are always a crapshoot. Why not give us a try?
Exactly. Can't say it any better than that.
Nothing is real. The Beatles. Yellow Submarine.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, Jeff.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. So let's get things rolling. Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. This is Jeff Arbuckle.
This right here is Jason Oliver.
And we just took a trip into the creative genius that is the Beatles.
Yeah.
Or at least an interpretation of their creative genius.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're still riding that snake, aren't you?
I didn't like this movie.
You didn't?
At all.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we watched Yellow Submarine. This week marks
Yellow Submarine. Yeah.
Yeah. This week marks the 50th anniversary of Yellow Submarine. And to be honest with you, I kind of knew that we probably would talk a little less about this movie and a little bit more about the Beatles in general.
Sure. Yeah.
So the Yellow Submarine, just kind of put it out there. What this is a animated film that came out right about the moment that the Beatles started to make it clear that they weren't going to be together much longer.
The cracks were showing.
The cracks were starting to show.
Yeah.
This is post the high of
Sgt. Pepper.
Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
And the beginning of they go off to India. They're talking to that
The Maharishi Mahesh.
Yes.
Oh, I could tell some stories about the Maharishi.
We might get to that here in just a minute here. This is post Magical Mystery Tour, which I talked a little bit about before we started watching this,
Yeah.
which was a TV special movie that was intended, and I think it was Paul's idea, to put as many different types of people on a bus and film what happens. The problem is nothing happened.
Yeah.
What happened was the pre-recorded and pre-filmed musical segments, like I Am the Walrus and various other things that came. And there's a trippy element to that is like they think they're going to capture something interesting. The problem is nothing interesting happens. And it basically started to sour the success that they had from Sgt. Pepper's. This movie was something that they wanted to do for a long time, but their manager, Brian Epstein, was like, no, I don't want you to do an animated movie. You really shouldn't be aiming towards kids. You should be just what you are. My assumption is. The only history that I'm pulling that from is from an early 80s documentary called The Complete Beatles that Alex DeLarge from Clockwork Orange narrated that.
Oh, interesting. What's the? Why does this movie exist?
Okay, so once Brian Epstein died, the Beatles consolidated all of their properties and all their IPs and everything into Apple Corp.
Yeah.
Which was problematic.
Yeah, but still a smart move.
Smart move, but at the time it didn't really work out. Apple Corp works now.
Yeah.
Didn't work then.
Well, they all hated each other.
Well, they hated each other, and they had no real place to take their IPs.
Yeah.
It's not like you have Rock Band,
right?
Or it's not like you have DVD and home video to sell your wares to. They really only had their music and their albums, and then their individual albums later. Like George continued to record under Apple Corp for a long time.
But are you saying that was kind of like this movie was another creative outlet to use their music in.
Yes.
To make money.
Apple Corps was all about the selling of their IP,
Yeah.
but also the ability to produce records for other bands that they felt were talented enough. Like Badfinger was a band.
Yeah, I mean, they're a label, basically.
Right. They became a label, but they also became
bands.
and as I think John wanted it to be, it's like this is going to be an outlet for film as well.
Fair.
George particularly was in the film.
Yeah.
He later personally bankrolled Life of Brian because he just wanted to watch that movie that Monty Python wanted.
This movie has a lot of that style for me, like that Monty Python animation style, the Terry Gilliam stuff. There's a lot of that in this.
Right.
I can definitely see that influence for sure.
Yeah, and so it was a creative outlet for them to do whatever they wanted, but also to open the doors for other people to do things. The problem was that they didn't really have the money themselves. It wouldn't be until later that it would become something.
Okay.
So this was something that
the startup capital just wasn't quite there.
It wasn't really there. I mean, back in, I'm assuming,
as a company, probably not. Right.
I'm assuming prior
individually they were all probably very wealthy, but
sure, absolutely,
but as a company there was not the startup capital to do big projects.
Right. And my assumption is that prior to the 80s, nobody purchased intellectual property. They purchased physical things.
But I mean, it's like licensing, though. I mean,
right, but licensing really wasn't a thing until like the late 70s. So, or at least not in the terms that we would think of it as now, where you sell a license and with that you circle back that money to create other things.
Yeah.
Like that, it's the Lucasfilm model of, I'm going to make money outside of this based on the property, but I can feed that into other things.
Yeah.
TV, movies, video games, whatever. Well, back then it was much more limited and much more.
Sure.
I mean, they're going to sell a record, but
you don't have as many outlets to sell your license to, your music to. Like,
I mean, there's so many
commercials, there's movies, but
you're only going to make so much money on putting your face on lunchboxes.
Right.
So they had wanted to be animated. They wanted to take their music into some sort of interpretation. They had done a couple of movies, and now they wanted to do something more animated. Brian Epstein didn't think it was a good idea because I think that
I agree with Brian Epstein.
Well, I think that the reason behind it, I think what you're criticizing,
it's different. Yes,
is you're criticizing execution versus idea.
Yes.
I think that there was a certain turn by the mid 60s that the Beatles were no longer kiddie.
Yeah.
That they were adult.
But I could see somebody making like a Lego version of this movie. Like we were just talking about that somebody's like making
Robert Zemeckis wanted to make
doing like a live action like
motion
capture version of this, which I think would be abysmal. But
it would be terribly.
But I could see it kind of weirdly as like a Beatles Lego movie. I could see that. You know, and not necessarily Yellow Submarine. I think there would be Yellow Submarine influences, but couldn't you see that?
Yeah.
This whole like Lego movie built around the Beatles, like almost like if you did Beatles Love.
Well, that was what I was about to say.
As a Lego movie or something.
If
you want to get into that kid market.
Well, this is actually something that an influence from this movie that becomes really, really important. I'll get to that here in just a minute. The movie is about a fairy tale world called Pepperland that lies 80,000 leagues under the sea.
Yeah,
they get attacked by blue meaties, which are essentially Nazis. It's a parable for the negativity destroying positivity.
Yeah.
Positivity, and one person escapes and meets up with the Beatles in Liverpool, and it recruits them. They save the day with music and love.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
that's the
that's
movie.
it. That's it.
That's the movie.
There's some rockin' tunes throughout.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
mean, look, I'm down on this movie because I think it's really boring, but I love the Beatles. I love the Beatles, and I love the music in this movie. I mean, that's the only thing really keeping me hooked watching this thing. It for me, this movie is a bit of a slog. It's just kind of.
What? Now, let me ask you this.
There's some funny jokes, I guess.
Let me ask you this. If there were no dialogue and it was all done through music, like an opera, like a rock opera, would that possibly make this movie better? Because it takes out the parts where there's story, basically, and it would change the tempo.
It would be better. Yeah, I don't think we'd be talking about it on film Seizure though. I think it'd be a different experience, probably a better experience. It would be something I would put on and just kind of let play. I don't see myself ever revisiting this again. I'll be honest, I really don't. I'll put on any of my Beatles records and I'll listen to those, but I don't see myself ever watching this again. It's just it's not even pretentious. It's just I don't know. It's like insufferably artsy.
Well, okay, so I get what you're saying. First of all, I will admit that 100% this movie is extremely British.
Yeah.
A lot of things they say fly right over the head of. I mean, if you're not a Brit, or possibly a Canadian because of or an Australian because of the what do they call that? The Commonwealth.
Yeah.
If you are outside the Commonwealth, there's some things that you will not understand.
Yeah.
There are imagery that you possibly don't understand.
They do call breakfast brekkie, which I like.
Brekkie, that's kind of cool.
Brekkie was, yeah.
Yeah, I'd go for a bit of brekkie. I've always looked at this as an interpretation of a very specific art that the Beatles were part of. Now, whether that be trippy or whether that's at times maybe a little too spot on, I always thought of it as what would be a visual that would match the lyrics to this song or whatever.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's very. I think maybe at times it's very.
I think though
on the nose.
I think that's part of the problem. Is like the music almost feels shoehorned in to a story that feels shoehorned into the music. It's like everything just feels a little mashed to me. It's like we wrote this story to fit this music, but we also put this music in to fit the story, and none of it really feels to me like there's any cohesive thought that went into this. It's just hey, the Beatles are fucking awesome and the music is great. Let's just try and sell it in another way.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Hard Day's Night and Help have a linear narrative.
Yeah.
Particularly Help. Help has a very complicated, not an overly complicated, but it's a very detailed plot. Like, it is this, then this. I mean, like, it is a narrative that has layer and whatnot. I mean, I think of this as what people thought children's entertainment was, which was color and cacophony of sound.
Yeah.
Which these Beatles songs that are chosen for this movie are cacophonous.
Yeah, look, the music is great.
But it's very heavy music. It's not. There are no slow songs in this movie.
No.
It's all very instrument heavy songs that are in this movie, and I think it's meant to be enrich a child's imagination and give the parents some tunes that they like.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Look, if that was what their goal was to kind of expand their market, keep themselves relevant for the kiddos, and make something that their parents might smoke a joint to and watch as well, then they succeeded. I just don't think it's very good.
And that's
I mean,
fair.
was this when this came out? Was it popular? I mean,
it's what's interesting.
I mean, I think everyone should know that I have never seen this. I've never seen this. I have seen Hard Day's Night and Help. You know, but I've never seen Yellow Submarine ever, and I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting, psychedelic trippy, and there's an element of that to this, but I wasn't expecting to be bored.
Let me read to you the reception section of the
on the Wikipedia. All right.
Yellow Submarine received widespread critical acclaim.
Wow.
Released in the midst of the psychedelic pop culture of the 1960s, the film was a box office hit, drawing in crowds both for its lush, wildly creative images and its soundtrack of Beatles songs. The film was distributed worldwide by United Artists in 2 versions. The version shown in Europe included an extra musical number, Hey Bulldog.
Hey Bulldog, yeah.
Heard in the final third of the film. For its release in the United States, the number was replaced with alternative animation due to time constraints.
Weird.
It was felt that at the time American audiences would grow tired of the length of the film, which is interesting because that's your critique, I think. It goes a little over long because it's not because you have to slog through the plot.
I do definitely feel like it's overly long,
which is funny because it's less than 90 minutes.
Especially in the third act, I do feel that. And
the third act is the act that spreads out the music longer. Yeah, I noticed.
But also I was honestly just kind of already just bored with it a third of the way in. Like, I just it did not connect with me at all. It did not connect with me. I just it was rough. It was rough for me the whole way through.
Well, here's the last bit here of that reception section. On Rotten Tomatoes, which take it for what it's worth, the film currently holds a 96% certified fresh score based on 47 reviews, with an average rating of 7.8 out of 10. The site's consensus states a joyful, phantasmagoric blend of colorful animation and music of the Beatles. Yellow Submarine is a delightful and occasionally melancholy family fare. I can tell you probably who is part of the 4%. Armand White probably hated it.
Yeah. Well, I'm with them. I'm with them. I mean, I honestly, I couldn't say I hated it.
No, but I'm saying that he's the guy who ruined Up's perfect.
All of them.
Yeah.
I know. But it didn't work for me.
No,
it just
and
didn't
that's
work
fine.
For me.
And that's fine. It's I'm interested. Okay, so this year is an anniversary for a couple of movies that are movies I grew up on, musical movies no less, because we're kind of hitting that musical stride right now. With the later in the year in November, we're going to talk about The Monkey's Head.
Yeah, which I also haven't seen.
It has fewer songs and much less plot. But I think you will be.
There wasn't any fucking plot in this. There's no plot in Yellow Submarine.
There's plot in Yellow Submarine. There's a lot less in Head. But the thing is that Head is done in segments that are commentaries on either fame or their place in pop culture, and things that I think you will respond to more. I would be interesting.
I have a feeling I'm gonna like that one a lot.
Also, though,
just from what I know about it, but yeah.
Also, though, the music is
of course it is. But,
that's when they were really at their height. But now, I remember once upon a time. And this is okay. Well, we'll get back to this here in a minute. One thing I wanted to say about Yellow Submarine, in general, is that the interesting legacy of this movie is that going forward, since its re-release in the late 90s, the style of the visuals of Yellow Submarine would become the predominant visual representation of Beatles music forever.
Yeah, that's true.
Love.
Yeah.
The imagery of certain things that have been done with like
the caricature of the characters of the Beatles. Yeah.
I have 2 Funko Pops from the movie. It's like they could have just made Beatles.
Right.
But no, they made Yellow Submarine.
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
a blue meanie.
You're totally right.
So
the
it
imagery
is the
prevalent.
imagery that is now the standard
Uh-huh.
for if you're going to represent the Beatles in a visual way, you ape off of particularly the logos and the times that things are almost subtitled within the art.
Yeah.
It is
So like text, aesthetic, sort of like graphic aesthetic, caricature. It's all you're right. It is. It's all from this movie.
It's embracing the psychedelic era, which is funny because as psychedelic as the Beatles ever got, I don't think they are considered psychedelic music.
No, not really.
I would say that
they had a psychedelic era. Like Tomorrow Never Knows is psychedelic as fuck.
There's a lot of things that are psychedelic that they did, but I would argue that the Beach Boys embraced psychedelic rock more so than the Beatles really did.
Yeah, to a degree, I think you're right.
Or at least American music.
I mean, I don't know.
Was a little bit more.
I don't know. I think that that Pet Sounds. Everyone was trying to make their own Sgt. Pepper.
Sure.
I mean.
Oh, there's
Sgt.
stories
Pepper
are,
is a psychedelic album, and
Sgt. Pepper. Well, I would say Sgt. Pepper is less a psychedelic album and more of a thematic album that had never really been done before.
Yeah. It kind of depends on your definition because it's not psychedelic in the sense that it's sort of meandering and
Space rocky.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you look at the Rolling Stones. They made Her Satanic Majesty's Request. It was an absolute response.
Is that the one that has She's a Rainbow on it?
I think so.
That's a little psychedelic. I love
That
song.
album was an absolute response to Sgt. Pepper.
Absolutely.
The Beach Boys' Pet Sounds was Brian Wilson's response to Sgt. Pepper's. I mean, there's no denying that. Like they pushed each other in these ways, and they all kind of made sort of psychedelic music as a result. But it was never really the focus.
Right. I always think of Sgt. Pepper's, which came out, 67? Came out the same day as the Monkees' Headquarters, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Jones Limit, which is between that and Headquarters considered their best.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because we're going to talk about the Monkees later in the year. And both of these bands I grew up with. Absolutely 100% part of my very being, if you will. So much so that 2 years ago I went to see the Monkees by myself and had the grandest time I've ever had in my life. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
But anyway.
No Davy Jones, huh?
Oh yeah, no, he's passed away. No Mike.
Wow.
It was just Mickey and Peter.
Well, Mickey's he's always been my favorite monkey.
You know what's funny is, as a child, Mickey was my favorite. Mike has become very, he's catching up down the home stretch. They're jockeying for position. Like sometimes I just want to listen to Mike Nesmith music. Sometimes I just want to hear Mickey songs.
Yeah.
But I always think of Sgt. Pepper's as being like a super massive neutron star that was dropped in the middle of a solar system, and everything is now drawn in. Like it was so massive and so all important that everything just kind of collapses in on it, and everybody now is uniformly matching it, or trying to do their own thing like that.
Well, I think
because it was not that I mean that it drug music down, but it was so massive that it drew everything in on it.
It pushed everyone's boundaries. That album, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, but I feel like that album probably is one of the most influential albums to ever be recorded.
Without that, I would say there would be no Dark Side of the Moon.
No, I mean,
which is one of the best-selling albums of all time.
There you go. I mean, that's just another classic albums that you're probably right. I mean, it. So for me, here's the thing. Here's where it gets really fucked up for me. Is I love Sgt. Pepper, It's not my favorite Beatles album. My favorite Beatles album is Revolver, but
It's almost unfair. It's like
but-
trying to rank the Beatles.
Right.
It's unfair.
it's like you pick your favorite kid, right?
Yeah.
But I love Sgt. Pepper. I fucking love it. And I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh yeah, that's these Sgt. Pepper songs, and they have Pepper Island or whatever the fuck it's called, Pepperland, and then the Sgt. Pepper is like the band is part of this whole thing, and I'm just like, this just feels really cheap.
Well, at the time,
It just feels to me like, oh my god, it's like, wow, how what's the next way we can commercialize this music? It just
Well, it's kind of funny because this movie came out in July of '68. Sgt. Pepper's came out the summer of '67, I think. To be honest with you, animated to get the movie to be made, to then write the script, then to animate it, all of that stuff. Honestly, this is as timely as they could make that.
Yeah.
Now, while
I get
looking
it.
back on it, it's it feels like you're commercializing it.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a much more serious episode of Film Seizure. I think we're having discourse. We are having musical discussion discourse.
The line of this Say It Film Seizure is fucking Yellow Submarine and Xanadu.
Xanadu's fantastic.
I like the music. But here we go.
We're gonna get to a point where I'm gonna be like, nope, not this one, nope, I
can't do it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, here's the thing too. This also goes back to Jeff's connection to this movie. He saw this as a kid.
Very young.
He loved
younger
it as a
than
kid.
The only thing I could understand when I first saw it was the visual.
Yeah.
And the music. I mean, the music I knew, but the visual I couldn't.
But there was something about it that connected with you. It's kind of like, it is sort of, I don't know. As a kid, I imagine I probably would have liked this. I can see my 8-year-old self watching this and being totally into it, like I was into Sesame Street or whatever. Like, and
there was that one part that you did like with the When I'm 64, where they were counting out a minute.
I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I did. I love text in animation anyway, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. But that's also kind of like the musical numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, all right, I'm just watching a music video now, and I like this. But when you try to kind of shoehorn this story in that really is pretty silly and superficial, and it just started to kind of like wear on me. It's like, all right, I get it. I understand the point of all of this. I understand it 5 minutes in.
Right.
Like, why are we belaboring
What's
this?
funny is it's an 87-minute version of All You Need Is Love.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's hammering it over your head incessantly.
But
it's just like,
to be honest with you, though, okay. Here we go again into the serious nature of the world we live in. There are movies that are made that I think hammer shit like that. Shit like that is not.
Like that. You want to start again?
Yeah, we'll try that again. Yeah, there are things that are made today that I am old enough to understand what their intent and purpose of saying that particular line or doing that particular thing or showing that particular visual is meant to invoke in people.
Okay.
Evoke?
Probably evoke.
Evoke.
Yeah.
It's supposed to evoke in people. And we live in a time right now where it's chaotic. And we are trying to figure out why there are certain people who feel certain ways in our society. Doesn't matter what side you fall on. Doesn't matter. I'm not even talking about from one side or the other. But people are trying to figure out how others feel. And so in order to, at times it's pandering, but in order sometimes to say, we are on your side or we are pushing this idea, they are very out front with it, and they are very. We're gonna hit it over the head. I had told you before we really got to talk too much about The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
That I felt it was one of the most liberal movies ever made. And I'm a liberal.
Yeah.
And I can see that, and I can watch that movie and spot. I can check off like a little tally. All leftist things that are being promoted in that movie.
Yeah.
The whole character of Rose, which sadly she's been taking a beating for that.
That all sucks.
That all sucks, and it's not her fault.
That's bullshit.
Is
what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want Phil Seizure on record that all of that is bullshit.
And
I don't like that movie, but that shit is bullshit.
You like and dislike things about that movie that are perfectly fine to like and dislike. There are perfectly good reasons to like or dislike something, even if you don't like the message.
Right.
Okay. Don't fucking go and push somebody to the brink of killing themselves.
It's fucking disgusting. It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah. And if I ever fucking hear somebody say our fandom is becoming as bad as Star Trek, I will fucking punch you in the dick, because Star Trek fans have never done that to somebody. Right. And I've said for years now that I'm more on Star Trek side than Star Wars, especially with the 2009 version of Star Trek kind of reinvigorating, and Star Trek Beyond is fucking great.
Beyond was good.
Yeah, but anyway,
Into Darkness not so good.
Right,
but
and
whatever.
we can like and dislike that however we want.
Yes, we can,
and that's fine. But there are things that they put. There are ideas and there are sentiments that are pushed in that movie that are in Last Jedi that are purposefully pushed and purposely extended with an idea of love defeats hate.
Yes.
And things like that. And I mean, I'm sitting there, the first time I saw it, it's like, I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, this message is sitting okay with me, but the person next to me might like go into a fucking rage fit.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I see that it's over the head. And we're just going to hammer this point home. And sometimes there are certain movies and certain eras in which they do that. Now, let's circle back around to something I said I was going to hold off on. At one point in time, I remember you had a critique on a movie that most people believe is very, very important for the furtherment of message in movies.
Okay.
And that you had called, that you weren't exactly sure how much you liked it because you felt it was especially heavy-handed.
Okay.
That is Easy Rider.
Easy Rider?
Your initial response to that movie was you felt it was heavy-handed and a little over the top with its message.
I don't remember what I said.
I only remember this because Shane and I were talking when we lived together.
Yeah.
He and I were like, I can't believe he didn't like that. I mean, oh my God, this is catered.
Yeah.
To
Easy Rider?
Yeah. Huh. You felt that the message it was sending, the angle that it took towards the counterculture was heavy-handed.
Yeah. I guess I still kind of feel that way, but honestly, it's been so long since I've seen it now.
I've held on to this.
I'm sorry. I'm kind of like blowing it in this episode because because I don't really remember what my reaction was so strongly about at this point.
The reason why I bring that up is because this movie is also heavy-handed, but I think it came at an important crossroads in time, which you kind of had to be heavy-handed. And looking back on something, it's kind of like saying, this random movie in the 50s, I don't like it because the woman didn't work.
Yeah.
And the guy came home.
Right.
It's looking at it from our purview of 2018 back to a time where something was less heavy-handed or needed to be heavy-handed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, granted, that doesn't take away your opinion of that some of the stuff is over the top and a little bit pushing certain ideals that is very simplistic.
But I totally see that point because I'm trying to think about Easy Rider and I'm trying to play that movie in my head a little bit right now and I can kind of see the point where I could kind of watch that movie today and be like, this is kind of passé, right?
Sure.
But when it was made,
it would have blown minds.
It would have blown minds. Yeah. So I get that. I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
but also think that that's like, all right, that's a kind of different type of art, right?
Sure.
So you've got art that is in the moment, and it's super important for being in the moment. But when you try to reflect on it later and you look at it, you kind of just have to recognize its importance in history.
Right.
But it's not really super relevant now, you know? Like, look at
Right.
Citizen Kane. Citizen
Yeah.
Kane, one of the greatest movies ever made, right?
Right.
Nobody would argue that. But you show that to anybody, 100 people, and 99 of them would be like, yeah, it was all right.
Sure.
You know?
Or Casablanca would be another one where it's like, if you look at certain movies made 60, 70, 80 years ago, society was different.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so certain things resonate differently.
Well, not only
And,
that,
and you look back on and it's like you should appreciate things that were.
the impact in society, the culture that as things stood at that time, but also just the what it pushed in the film boundaries, right? Like
Right.
what the boundaries it was pushing, like Citizen Kane with its angles and its compositions and all of that, right? So
And the random cockatoo shot or whatever that bird is.
Yeah. I mean,
to
you
keep
see
people awake.
yeah. So you see that movie now, and it's studied because it's part of film history, but it's not necessarily. If it were released today in its present form, people would be like, "What's this?"
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, which is why I think. Now, okay. Slightly unpopular opinion. I did not have as much of a negative reaction to the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho, for example.
I didn't either.
Now, granted, is it unnecessary? Yeah.
Totally.
But it's fine. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
something that it was an experiment by somebody who could do that.
Well, you know the story behind that is that Gus Van Sant had just made Good Will Hunting, and he was like on the top of the world, and that is what Gus Van Sant decided to do with a blank fucking check. He wanted to make
His version of a movie he loved.
He wanted to make a shot-for-shot remake of Psycho, and it was truly the experiment that it sounds like. He's like, it was never.
The problem was it was a major studio release.
Right. That's exactly right. But he would never have been able to make it
Right.
without that blank check.
Right.
So it's totally misunderstood because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I actually really like it. And I think that Vince Vaughn's approach to the Norman Bates character actually takes it to a different, creepier level in some ways.
I like Vince Vaughn. I like that he was out of type.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And he's the funny guy.
But is
I mean,
that movie necessary?
No.
Absolutely fucking not. But is it something that Gus Van Sant needed to fucking excise from himself? Absolutely. And he got to do it.
Right.
And that's beautiful.
right. Now, let me add one thing to it. Technically, no movie is necessary.
True.
Technically. I mean, yes, you can say there are certain movies that shed lights on certain things or certain struggles or certain ideas. And those are things that we should know about. These
Yeah.
are things that we should be exposed to. However, technically, movie as an art form, none of the movies that have ever been released are technically necessary.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe one, and my dad is going to love that I bring this up. And before anybody loses their mind, there's a perfectly historical reason for it.
Are you about to tell us the only necessary movie that has ever been made is?
You want to take a shot at it? It's
Man.
very important for a very negative reason.
It's probably
My
Birth.
dad's
It's,
screaming it
it's
right
probably
now.
Birth of a Nation.
No.
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 Well, I have no idea. Then.
Triumph of the Will.
Oh yeah.
It needed to happen.
I was in the same ballpark.
You're in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's a bad effect,
Yeah.
but it needed to be done for that purpose
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, any movie you can say, well, any movie that is exposing or talking about something is necessary.
Yeah.
But technically, no movie has ever been made that was necessary to be made. However, it's an art form.
I mean, my second guess was going to be like 3 Men and a Baby.
Well, yeah, no, Police Academy would have been the
Yeah.
proper second. You're in the neighborhood
In
with
the neighborhood.
Gutenberg.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah, possibly Made in America if we go Ted Danson.
Ted Danson in
and-
blackface.
and-
Never better. Never better.
Absolutely, Demolition Man was needed.
Yeah.
We are getting to that someday.
We really haven't quite cracked
you know,
the death penalty conversation.
this is the 25th anniversary. I think
but
we've
but
got
but
room
the,
in
but,
November.
but
We'll talk about it.
Demolition Man is on the forefront of that conversation as a national conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Resolved.
Yeah.
Well, let's do a debate. Yeah. Resolved. The death penalty is necessary, or you're going to get as much Simon Phoenix as we want. Go. Anyway, I just approached that with forensic language. I was never a debater.
Yeah. It's clear.
I'm other kinds
That's
of
clear.
debaters, but
Well.
never a debater. But I feel like I'm ready to defend. We will put that on the docket. I think it's especially important this year because it's the 25th anniversary. We'll put it on the docket.
Yeah, it's on the docket.
And I will come with a notebook full of reasons why
Why?
I stand on my side.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
We've had this conversation before.
This gauntlet has been thrown. I love it. It's so good. The Demolition Man.
Yes. Let's circle back around to Yellow Submarine. Real
Okay,
quick.
let's get back to that movie. That's what we're talking about, right? The Yellow
Absolutely.
Submarine. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's this week's episode.
Demolition Submarine. Yellow Submarine. Okay, so with the idea that almost no movie was ever necessary to be told or to be created. Sometimes you just want to make something. Now,
Yeah.
we look at this in our purview of 2018 by saying this is a marketing ploy to sell more whatever, Beatles, whatever.
Sure.
However, this is something that the Beatles wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think they were obviously going to think of the business element of it. I mean, they were running a studio at this point, Apple Film,
Yeah.
which this proudly displays at the start of the movie.
I could see this whole thing turning into like a children's program by the Beatles, like,
Sure.
hey, let's indoctrinate our youth with our message of love, and that's honestly like kind of an awesome idea.
Right, and indoctrination sounds so negative, but it is the message of this movie.
Yeah.
Love triumphs.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, I didn't mean it as negative.
No, but I mean indoctrination always sounds
I
like
know
a
it
negative
does.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always used negatively. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean it's negative. So this is a situation where they wanted to do this. They wanted to do this. Brian Epstein was not so sure about it. They had their autonomy and they made it.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
obviously,
you're the
for-
Beatles. There's no fucking risk. I mean, you
I mean,
can shit
you-
on a shingle and sell it probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they survived the whole Bigger Than Jesus
Yeah.
scandal, which was only a scandal in the southern part of the United States. I want that to be
They were
very
they probably still are bigger than Jesus.
absolutely.
They transcend any party line,
They transcend
any,
any
religion.
Um,
They're bigger than Jesus. That's just fact. So
Right,
come
but-
at me, bro. The Beatles are bigger than Jesus.
I don't think anybody listening to this is going to disagree with you on that. But I also want it to be said, even though that was a huge, huge flap that is always talked about in any Beatles documentary, keep in mind that it was a small portion of a small part
Yeah.
of their worldwide
Yeah.
reach.
Sure.
That meant something. In England, it went over like nothing.
Yeah.
It went over like nothing in Japan. It went over like nothing in Canada. It went over like nothing wherever.
So you're saying where all the shitty people live, it didn't go over so well?
I'm not saying that.
I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but
But I know what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. We'll move on from there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean this. The other thing I wanted to talk about with the Beatles, which is kind of interesting because they kind of represent, like, the one thing you liked very much during the portion of When I'm 64.
Yes.
They count that they put up a graphic of how many minutes
Yeah.
are in a year, or no, how many minutes are in,
Or in 64 years. Yeah.
And they say 1 minute is a long time. Allow us to
demonstrate. Yeah.
And they count off 1 minute
Really
by
like
counting
that.
up to 64.
I really like the interactive nature of that.
Yeah.
The
There's a message to that too.
Yes. There's an illustration in more ways than one of what they're trying to convey there, and I really liked it.
Right. It's like, first of all, that life is not as short as you think it is.
Right.
And that within every minute you have so much time to make a decision,
Right.
or to do something,
Yeah.
or to feel certain ways.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that there was something I was thinking about that I was going to write extensive notes about, and I didn't do it. I was busy putting up our new website and shit. But there was a thought that I had, which was, remember when you were younger how long time was?
Yeah.
Like, the summer felt like forever
Yeah.
until you look back on it.
Days felt like forever.
Days went on forever. The school year was interminably long.
Yeah.
Like, to us, a stretch of 9 months goes by in a blink of an eye.
No problem. Yeah.
But when you're a kid, when you're 10 years old,
it's scary. It's
first-
it's scary how fast time goes now.
exactly, we are connected to time differently than we were when we were younger.
Yeah.
I also wonder how that also applies to the Beatles. Because remember, the Beatles had exactly 7 years of fame.
Yeah.
They had been together for a little bit before that. They were together for about 10 years. But they had exactly 7 years of albums, tours, movies, an animated TV show at one point in time.
Yeah.
9 albums, I think, because the Monkees had the same amount of albums in half the time. So think about how much the Beatles did in such a short time.
Yeah.
Like, if they weren't touring, they were recording an album. They also made 2 movies, a Magical Mystery Tour movie. They recorded Let It Be for a long time.
Yep.
And had a movie version of that, which I doubt we will ever see publicly, for reasons that
there have been things that have been leaked from that, though, right?
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube once.
Yeah.
The Beatles don't want that. It will not be released until all the Beatles are gone.
Yeah.
And I
when
think
it's part of the record,
Yes.
the historical record. At that
because I think for as long as Paul McCartney lives, I don't think he wants to be seen as the person that ultimately forced them to break up.
point. Yeah.
He was so good at coaxing people back when they wanted to quit. Like, each member wanted to quit at some point, like during the White Album and stuff.
Yeah.
He coaxed them back, but then it was his turn to leave. But it was interminable. It was a horrible recording session. Everybody's fighting with each other. I mean, captured on film.
Yeah.
A film that was released to theaters. A film that won an Oscar for song score. Shows a very nasty fight between Paul and George Harrison.
Yeah.
Between Paul McCartney and George Harrison. And it's not something that, as long as they're alive, they don't want to see. They don't want people to see, because we think of the Beatles as their music, not what they were to one another.
Yeah.
And the fractures were deep, and they were harsh, and they were things that stuck with them for the rest of their days. The ones that have, the ones that are still alive are still probably trying to figure out if they'd have done something different,
Sure.
how things would be different. Although also, I don't argue anybody for, like, Paul McCartney to have such a massive career beyond.
Well,
but
I mean,
still,
it's kind of yeah. I don't know.
I thought that was an interesting
It is
part of the
interesting.
movie, that it indicates how long a minute is, and then transpose that to how long their lives would have seemed together in that short 7 years
Yeah. Okay.
of every night being at a new stadium.
Uh-huh.
having to write music, having to record it. Now, granted, back then recording might have been lesser time because it would have been a lot of live jam stuff.
But
still, it takes a while. And
7 years is a long time for anything.
Yes, but when you put into the account of what they accomplished,
Yeah. Wonder how
they
fast.
did a lot in that time.
Yeah.
They did more than 1 year's worth of stuff every year. I mean, somehow
Sure.
they did that.
The Beatles are. One of the things that struck me as I was watching the movie was sort of along those lines. It's like the Beatles were able to produce so much. I don't know. It's hard to imagine like Paul McCartney and John Lennon in the same band anyway. And then you have George Harrison and Ringo Starr, who are both amazing in their own rights. But to have that concentration of talent in one band to produce as much amazing music as they did, and then solo, is almost astronomically impossible to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of what blows my mind about the Beatles whenever I really think about them. It's how,
something that will probably never, ever be able to be repeated in the way that they did it.
it's just it is flabbergasting.
Yeah, I mean, like, now, granted, I know I'm a bigger Rolling Stone fan than you are,
Yes.
but they happen to go to the same school. Now, they've also had a lot of different members in their time. They also come together from different stylings of music,
Yeah.
where ultimately they never really wanted to be a rock and roll band. They were much more interested in blues.
The Stones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The Beatles, on the other hand, is a perfect moment, a perfect situation encapsulated in a perfect moment
Yeah.
that just so happened to work out, which
And
nobody can ever piece together that.
And it's weird too
band
because
again.
John Lennon I don't even think he liked most of the music that they made. He was kind of like an old school like 50s rock guy. Like he liked the
Yeah.
womp womp a loo wop kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like
And
that
so
was
did George.
Yeah,
George.
that was the kind of like what they were digging, and they didn't really make anything much like that. Maybe the early stuff was a little closer to it.
The Silver Beatles. Yeah,
Yeah.
their initial, yeah.
Yeah.
George Martin probably had a lot to do with what they ultimately became, because he became more of a music teacher to them.
Yeah.
And I think that, whereas you have George Harrison, who began with a 50 styling, ultimately go into an Eastern styling with, Indian sounds and
Yeah.
so on. That is 100% George Martin teaching him about other cultures' ways of making
Well,
music.
that's super true because, like, all right, let's look at when they go solo. What
Yeah.
happens? What happens? So they go solo, and George goes total fucking psychedelic.
Well,
for the most
he
part.
goes his own route.
Yeah,
Because he also has poppy music, but also he
That's
has
later,
very
though.
artistic.
That's later, though.
Well, even in the 70s, there are some albums that he would release something that's very artistic, and then the next
Yeah,
album would be
yeah.
a super bunch of radio hits.
Yeah.
And then the next one would be, I'm just going to go back to the Eastern sound a little bit.
Yeah.
And then by the 80s, he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do this. I'll work with
Was he like?
Bob
was
Dylan
he
and
still
Tom
like
Petty.
Hare Krishna in the end, like
He
80s?
he was
Did he stick with that?
well, he was still Buddhist.
Yeah.
He still used the sitar in some songs.
Yeah.
When We Was Fab was
yeah, yeah.
and a lot of his last album, Brainwashed,
Okay.
had, if not Eastern sounds, Eastern philosophy.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's definitely a direction that George was like,
Yeah.
That's is what I like.
Well, he went spiritual.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because he was spiritual of all spiritualism. He accepted all ideas.
Yeah.
And held his own.
Yeah.
So
So then, all right. So then John kind of goes
avant-garde.
for sure. I mean, amazingly so. Like the stuff he did with the Plastic Ono band, like honestly, like I find myself more and more exploring Lennon's solo stuff and the Plastic Ono stuff, and I'm like, it is. I think it's got some legs.
Yeah.
Like it is shit that I just go back to more and more and more, and I find something new in it, right?
Yeah.
But
always thought that.
but it is, yeah. It's like he went avant-garde, and then all of a sudden he stopped,
Yeah, he quit for a little while.
and then he made
because
his covers album,
Yeah.
which is like totally
Yeah,
different.
he does a really good version of "Stand by Me."
Yeah,
Yeah,
That album is great,
Yeah.
but it's so
Well,
different. It's
just,
weird.
He
It's
did
like,
what he wanted to do,
Yeah.
and he was always, "I'm going to do what I wanted to do, what I want to do." It's great if these other guys want to come along with me.
Yeah.
But I think he like Imagine, which is obviously his most mainstream album,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Still has a thematic. He is bucking ideas. He is not
Yeah.
only bucking ideas of what religion or government or whatever. He blasts Nixon. He
Yeah.
also blasts himself, the
Yep.
jealous guy.
Absolutely.
He is coming up front and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm this way, but I'm this way." And
Well, and not only that, but it's almost kind of like just a conversation with himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's therapy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't know what I believe, but these are things I think about.
Crippled Inside is also one of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's commercially successful, but it's a what do they call that? It's a what do they call when it all matches a theme or a
not a pastiche.
I'll think of it, but it's all there's a matching theme to each of the songs.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't tell it in a order that
A motif.
no.
It
I'll
doesn't
think of
matter.
it.
It doesn't
I'll think
matter.
of it.
But yes. I mean, so all right. So then you've got Lennon, and Lennon is doing that. And Lennon, I honestly think before his death was sort of not sure really what the next step was. I mean, what did he release?
Double Fantasy was a big
which
one.
is fucking great. I mean, that's
my
great.
favorite song's on that one.
That's a great album. That's a fucking great album.
Concept album. That's what I meant.
Concept. Yeah.
Concept.
And then, all right, then you've got Paul, who I believe truly is kind of like the most natural progression from the Beatles in a lot of what he did.
Yeah, Paul McCartney might be one of the few individuals alive today who truly understands pop music beyond catchy tunes.
Yeah.
Because he had plenty of catchy tunes, but he also had some songs that say shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there are very few people Weird Al knows the understanding of pop tunes and what it means to be,
Weird Al, I'm leaning into the mic, is a fucking national treasure.
He is.
He is.
But no, Paul McCartney Elton John, I would say, would fall into this, where they just flat out understand how to touch people with pop music.
Yep.
And not pop music like we think of pop music today, that is mostly disposable.
Right.
But like for real,
like a song that is going to creep into the psyche of society.
it's going to be a zeitgeist type of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Instant zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Even. Yep. And it can do it time after time after time. That is a genius.
He's done it for like 50 years.
Yep.
I mean, he wrote a fucking Bond song that is still. I heard it on the radio yesterday.
Yeah. And it's still fucking relevant. And
It's 45 years old.
It feels today.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it still gets the blood pumping. And
Yeah.
I hear any song off Band on the Run.
Yeah.
And I am like in it, man. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a fucking great album.
Yep.
Yeah.
He has some missteps too.
Sure, but
Like quite a few, but he's so prolific. What are you gonna do? I mean, they're not gonna all be fucking
Humble
winners,
Pie
kid.
was a good album.
Yeah,
The one in the late 90s, I think it was.
I didn't
early
like
2000s.
the one that he did with Michael Jackson. Like the
Oh,
really,
say.
I don't like that.
No, that song is.
That
I mean,
album I don't really like.
that is. What was that? Tug of War.
I don't
think
know.
that
It
one.
was like a big one. I don't really like that album.
There's a couple of
That one
songs.
gets a little goofy for me.
Yeah, I mean they can't all be.
Fucking winners, kid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They can't all be. Maybe I'm amazed.
Right. or like
silly love songs.
Yeah.
You know, they can't. I mean, because silly love songs. Here's how much he is in tune with his ability, his talent, and his genre. He makes fun of himself in that song, and still makes it a song that means something to people. Like, he is basically telling people, it's like, yeah, this is what I do. You know, I'm fine with it. What's wrong with that? You know, and it's still hitting the right notes and still creating a really good song from something that he is bashing himself. I mean, like, he's bashing himself over.
The Speed of Sound.
Speed of Sound, okay.
That album is my favorite. Like,
okay,
the Wings album.
Yep.
Holy fuck.
What's on that album?
Well, this the big one, the one that still just blows me. But Silly Love Songs is on that album. Yeah. Let Him In.
Oh, that's a good one.
Let Him In. Let Him In is I think the jam of all McCartney jams. Like, that song is so good. But that album, holy fuck, that album is good.
Let me. I'm gonna pull up Band on the Run because my favorite song of his is Jet. That's on that.
Oh, that's good. That's
Jet,
good.
Band on the Run, of course.
Yeah.
Hell on Wheels is on there too. Let Me Roll It. That's such a simple song, but it's got such a cool beat to it and kind of a little bit of a jam in the middle of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
1985. That's a good one too. Anyway.
Yeah. McCartney is awesome, but he's the guy that was gonna make the reliable hit pop songs.
Yeah.
And he kept doing it. And
sold out arenas.
Yeah.
By himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's still doing it.
Sure.
I mean,
I'd love to see him before
Yeah.
he passes, but I doubt I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, me too. Sad.
Yeah.
Frowny face. But anyway.
a literal emoji appeared on your face.
Yes, it did.
Frowny face. Yeah.
So should we circle back around here to the submarines that are yellow?
Yeah, Yellow Submarine. So in the end, I have a special connection with it. Like I told you, I remember watching my brother's VHS tape that they recorded off of Channel 4 on some Saturday night movie.
Yeah.
I can even remember where the commercial breaks happen.
That's amazing.
And I even remember literally what the difference is between no Hey Bulldog segment and Hey Bulldog segment.
Yeah.
To kind of explain that, Hey Bulldog was a song of theirs that they made for this movie. It was always appeared on the British soundtrack version of the album. It never appeared in the American side of things. In the late 90s, a big deal was made when it was re-released to VHS and to DVD later, that it was restored. And I mean, I can remember all of that. And it's like, there are certain things that are said, like they come across a big thing in this movie is they go through various quote unquote seas. So they go through like the Sea of Time, where time reverses and fast forwards. And they go through the Sea of Holes and the Sea of Green and the Sea of all of these various different places. And the Sea of Science was one of the places. And I'll always remember when they go through the Sea of Holes, Ringo picking up a hole and saying, putting it in his pocket. And it's like, I've got a hole in me pocket. And ultimately that playing out to being a big part of the resolution of the movie.
Yeah.
Or the resolution of reinvigorating Pepperland. Anyway. But no, it's like these are things that are all, things that are fresh in my mind, things that I saw, things that my brothers quoted.
Yeah.
And it's like also when they go through the Sea of Monsters, there's these two things that look like boots, and they call them the Kinky Boot
Beast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pair of Kinky Boot Beasts, which is, as a kid, flies completely over my head, but understanding kink now, I guess, and the fact that they are, like knee-high boots.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, I get it now. It's like, but those are things that, like, there were times when I would be watching other movies with my brothers, and somebody would be wearing boots, and they would say, "Oh, she's wearing kinky boots. She's a kinky boot beast." And I don't get it, but the combination of those words still make you laugh as a kid, you know. So it's like all those things are. I mean, that's a heavy part of my childhood.
That's like a Broadway musical too, right? Kinky Boots.
Oh, I'm sure.
How old is that? I don't know.
I always thought it was coming off of like Go-Go Boots and stuff like that.
I don't know. I think it's like a Broadway thing, but whatever. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, all right, I love the Beatles.
Now, go ahead.
I love the Beatles. I will listen. I could probably be happy on a desert island with nothing but Beatles records. This was something I hadn't seen before that I saw that I just was like, eh.
Are you sorry you saw it?
No.
There you go. That's all that matters.
I'm not sorry that I saw it. I'm glad, I guess, that I can kind of like say, yeah, I've seen it, and I have an opinion about it, and I can share that opinion with anyone who wants to know my opinion about it.
Well, there's nobody here who wants to hear your opinion.
But I'm not going to be like, oh, Yellow Submarine, terrible, fucking atrocious. Like, why does anybody like this? Oh God, bleh. You know, I'm not gonna do that because it's not how I feel. I get it. I guess in retrospect,
I'd be curious if you were.
I'd be interested if I had a kid, like a young child, to show it to them. They'd probably fucking love it. They'd probably be.
It's
so
all
entranced
that.
by
It's
it.
that. It's a cacophony of sound, and if there's any way that visuals could be a cacophony, it does it.
Yeah, I think that I could put my kid in front of that, and they would be like, "Whoa."
Yeah,
and it would probably be
also,
a positive, like encouraging, creative force for them as well, because it is, if nothing else, it is very ambitious and creative, and those are all good things. It just didn't work for me. That's all it is.
If you have a kid, feed it some acid, set it down in front of it, watch this kid.
It's like there's lots of paintings in the art gallery, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all probably considered in some way, shape, or form like good by somebody, but I might not like them. But a lot of people do, and they have value. Yeah. And they just don't appeal to me. And this is what I don't think that enough people have enough appreciation about. Like we talked about The Last Jedi. I didn't really like The Last Jedi, but I don't begrudge anyone for liking it.
Right.
Like it is.
And it's like I know the faults of it. Just a few weeks ago, I said, I'm not an idiot. I know Xanadu's not good. Now, this one's a slightly different situation.
Yeah.
This movie has the support of all the critics.
Yes.
Except for you.
Except for me.
Yeah. But I'll stand
Armand White.
And probably Armand White. I'd be curious to find out if he is one of the negative
But
people.
it's true. I mean,
or what's that one guy's name? Smith. Kyle Smith, who also writes for the National Review. That guy has some really uninformed opinions on things.
Some goofy opinions on things.
Yeah, but just because there's a female protagonist doesn't mean that it's a women's agenda. You
but I think
asshole.
that's interesting too. Is about I can have an opinion about this movie, and you can have an opposing opinion, and we can talk about it, and you can tell me why you like it, and I can agree.
Well, here's the thing.
And I can tell you why I don't like it, and you can agree, but we can still fucking like or not like it. That's America, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen after we turn off this recording, everybody? We're going to punch
British
the fuck
invasion.
out of each other. No, we're going to fisticuffs. Fisticuffs over this because no one can ever disagree with my opinions. Ever. Says the internet. Fuck the internet.
And get away with that.
Listen to us on the internet.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're only on the internet, so find us there.
Right, we're not coming over.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. No, I mean, no, you hit it right on the head there. I appreciate that you were willing to watch it, that you were willing to talk about it. We disagree.
Yeah.
But we don't disagree vehemently.
No.
I mean,
not at all.
You understand why I like it. I understand why you don't.
Yeah.
You know.
And I appreciate, that's the other thing about this. It's like, I don't think enough people go out of their way to understand and appreciate why other people like something. right?
Right.
So
there's no harm in me liking this movie. Therefore, there's no reason to begrudge
and there's
me
no
my...
and honestly, it enriches my interest in the movie by understanding why my good buddy Geoff likes it.
We've had this conversation just literally 2 weeks ago.
I know,
Yeah,
and we're gonna have it again.
We're gonna have it again.
Because fuck it, it's important, right?
Right. And that someday will come when you're going to be excited to show me something. I'm going to be like,
Right.
no, dude.
But you're gonna be like, oh, he really likes it. You know what? Perfect example is Chuck. Chuck with me and Twin Peaks. He was like, God damn it, you really like Twin Peaks, don't you? And like the third season was rough for a lot of people, Chuck included. And he was like, and I was like a maniac because I was picking everything apart and I loved it all. And I was like, this is so amazing. And I couldn't stop talking about it. And I would get emotional when I talk about it. And Chuck was like, you really love it. And he appreciated my love of it, even though he didn't necessarily feel the same way I did. But he was like, I just don't. There's not enough of that.
Right.
There's not enough of that. Like, there's too much of people tearing other people down.
Right. Another great example. I am not a gigantic fan of the current... now, you will say you're not a gigantic fan of any of it, but I'm not a gigantic fan of the current era of Doctor Who. There are things I like about it.
Let me preface this. I want to get this clear.
I
want to get
I
this
know
clear.
what you're going to say.
I've never really watched Doctor Who. I watched the early Doctor Who, and it was chintzy and like really goofy. When I was a kid, I was like, oh man, this looks bad.
I wonder if you'd have
And
a
I didn't
slightly
watch
different
it.
opinion now that you better understand science fiction.
If I probably, and if I had an older
'Cause this is
brother,
heavy
or if I had an
science.
older brother
Sure, like
who
me,
was like loved it, I would probably watch it.
Sure.
I never got into the new stuff because I didn't like the old stuff. And
Right.
I just never had a point of entry.
I understand.
That's all it is.
Sure, I understand that. I like the classic Who at least twice as much. Even the stuff that I admit is not good.
Wow. Cool. Okay.
Okay, that doesn't degrade necessarily the current stuff.
Right.
That certainly does not mean that I begrudge any new doctors that are hired. I want that to be clear.
Yes.
I am not angry about a female doctor. I
Yes.
have different opinions than a lot of fans do, but they're my own. And there are
Yes.
other people that I trust their opinion who have the same thing, both male and female.
Yes.
But because I like the original, I don't expect anybody who likes the current to must like the original.
Yeah, yeah.
Much like I don't think it's fair for them to say, I like the classic, so therefore I must be on board for everything that happens now. For the last 13 years that the show's been on. I have some things I very much like during that era. Some things I think are bad writing. I worry about the bad writing. I worry about placating certain groups of fans, but I also understand those groups are overtaking the classic fans. So,
Yeah.
it's like my age group, my preference is in the minority now, and that's fine. Nothing will ever take away the classics.
Right.
Nothing will take that from me.
Nothing will kill the classic.
Exactly.
Nothing can kill the classic.
And nothing will take away the 12 to 20 years of the stuff that I ate up like it was fucking Fruity Pebbles in a bowl of milk. Time frame of that classic series that is, to me, the bread and butter of what I love about it.
Can we go finish your thought?
But I don't begrudge. Like, I was just at a convention last weekend. A lot of people dressed up as Doctor Who people.
Yeah.
All of them are very young people.
Yeah.
And I appreciate their love of the new stuff. It's keeping the series going.
Yeah.
It would be
You
like...
won't have any more without them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would rather have a little bit more than none at all.
Right.
But I also want to be able to say that if I wanted to, I just will watch all the classics.
Yeah.
They will never take that from me.
Right.
And my imagination can continue those stories. So, you not liking Yellow Submarine is slightly disappointing to me.
Sure. Yeah.
But nothing's going to take away my appreciation
Right.
for it. And you will never try to take that away from me.
Never.
And again, we talked about this with Xanadu.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but no, it's important to understand that it's like there are many shades of colors.
Yeah.
There are many shades of gray, and there are many multitude of various hues and colors that make up an opinion.
Yeah.
And make up a fandom.
Yep.
And there is no such thing as black and white. Even in things that are important for there to be black and white, sometimes you can't have black and white. But that's another discussion for another time, for another never.
Never.
For never on the show, because it's never important. But no, I mean, it's okay that you didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm never going to say you're wrong for this and allow me to tell you why you're wrong.
Well, yeah, and I think
and shake my finger at you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, look, I mean, we have a friendship that has spanned several decades now, and we're not the same person. I mean, fucking Christ, right?
No, we
Like,
can't be.
I don't.
We could
understand.
could never be the friends that we have been if we are the same person.
Right. So there's this. There's this. It's so prevalent now, and you see it. You see it across the internet. You see it in social media. You see this, like, us against them in everything.
Yeah.
It's like you agree with me or you don't. Everything is black and white, and it's just exhausting. It's exhausting, and I don't want to be that way. I don't want my friends to be that way. Like, seriously, do you really want your friends to disagree with everything you say? Do you? I mean, why? If they agreed with everything you said, what about your friends is making you a better person? What about your friends is challenging you?
What about your life is interesting?
Right. So different opinions, different ideas, while scary, fucking A, especially in this world. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of really scary ideas out there.
But we're
I get
also
it.
more we have more ways of hearing those scary ideas. And sometimes the people with the most scary ideas are a very small percentage who just happen to be louder. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, the world sucks.
Which idea is louder right now is a really scary thought. I
Sure.
mean, that's kind of what's happening.
Sure, because there are a lot of people who will sway with whatever quote unquote popular opinion is.
It's like
for
it's
however
like
popular.
I didn't know that the internet would be a constant fucking ideological debate over every fucking thing.
God damn
but
it,
that's
I
what
know.
it is, and I hate it. I hate it. I don't like it. It honestly, it really stresses me out.
Yeah. So I think to kind of distill what we've been talking about here, you can be a Beatles fan and dislike or possibly even hate this movie.
Yes.
Does not change how much of a Beatles fan you are.
Right.
I am not a huge fan of the song Eleanor Rigby. I know
Right. Yeah,
every
yeah.
one of my friends thinks that's a masterpiece,
Yeah, I like that song a lot.
but it's not one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not shunned for that.
No.
I'm not an idiot for that.
No.
It doesn't make me any less of a Beatles fan than
No,
that.
it doesn't.
It doesn't make me any more of a Beatles fan that I'm a big fan of the song Rain that does not appear on any of their albums.
Yeah.
It's a rarity. Well, it's on an album, but it's a rarities album.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me any better than you or anything like that.
Right.
So if you want to watch this movie, it's the time to see it. It's
The 50th anniversary.
the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's going to be re-released.
It's in
been
theaters.
in theaters.
It's in theaters right now. Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's making, at the very least, it's been in theaters, if not making a tour
right.
of it.
Yeah.
If you see it and you're disappointed by it or you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to tell people you like it
Yeah.
when you don't really like it.
That's an important thing, right?
Yeah.
That's important. Like, I don't think it's refreshing for me to have this outlet and to be able to have a conversation with my very, very dear friend Geoff and tell him that I don't like something that he loves. Like, we can have that conversation and it can be really meaningful.
Mhm.
Like, But it's all right. It's okay. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, to me, I would be more disappointed if you said, "Oh, that new Avengers movie, I fucking hated it. It's dumb." I'd be more disappointed in that because I very much liked it. Doesn't change the way I live my life.
Right.
Doesn't change our
Right.
friendship.
Right.
You know.
But also, it's like you want to understand why.
I would want to know why.
You want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'd like to know why.
So when
because
you talk
I would
about,
like to be able to say your reasons are invalid. Thank you.
Yes.
And walk away from you and never speak to you again.
But in all seriousness, when you talk to somebody about it
Yeah,
and you
it's-
understand why, you get insight into who they are, and you enrich your relationship with that person. This is how friendships are fucking built and maintained.
Debates are fine.
Yes.
We've debated essentially our value points on this movie in this episode in pieces. We talked about other things. We went off on other tangents, but it helped inform our opinion of things, and it informed the varied multitude of sometimes you just don't like something that somebody you like does. Tom Petty is my favorite artist. I have not loved his last couple of albums before he passed away. That's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. Because, again, I can go back and listen to Wildflowers whenever I want.
Right.
I can go back and listen to Full Moon Fever or Damn the Torpedoes whenever I want.
And he is an artist who is expressing himself however and whenever he wants. And the
It's
way
not
he's...
it's not for me to tell him how.
Exactly.
That was one thing. You know, when that first started popping up in my own personal zeitgeist, when there were several people who were upset over the Smashing Pumpkins' Adore album.
Yeah.
It's not like Melancholy, or it's not like Siamese Dream.
Well,
Well,
why would
go
you want it
listen
to
to
be?
those fucking albums.
Yeah, why would
Yeah.
you want it to be?
and people got mad when Billy Corgan himself said, "Why would you want this?"
Yeah. Would you
I
like
agree.
me to just re-record the same songs? Like,
Because that gets you nowhere.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, look. I mean, here's the thing with Billy Corgan. Any artist, it's like, yeah. Guess what? I probably am not gonna like a lot of what you do. Fuck, Radiohead, at one point in my life, was my favorite band in the world. I haven't liked a Radiohead album, like really liked one, in like 10 years.
Right.
You know, that's the fucking shits, man.
Yeah.
That happens.
Right.
Like, get over it. Like, they don't write music for you.
Right.
They fucking write it for themselves, and they hope you like it. So, fuck you.
Which goes back to a conversation we've had before about a fan approaching John Lennon, saying, you know, your music speaks to me. The Beatles spoke to millions,
Yeah.
tens, hundreds, possibly, of millions of people. Possibly, maybe near 1 billion people in the whole history of them existing. They spoke to those people, favorably or for ill, spoke to them. They didn't write a single one of those goddamn songs for anyone but themselves.
Yep.
And, you know, and John Lennon was very honest about this. It's like, it's my own therapy. It's
Yeah.
my own,
Yeah.
and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
It's more than okay.
that doesn't
It's-
make him an
it's-
asshole.
Right. No, it doesn't. It's like, I'm not here to dance for you.
I'm not your fucking monkey.
I'm not your fucking monkey.
yeah.
Unless you're
A
like,
monkey.
A monkey.
Yeah, unless you're like one of
like
those monkeys
David
with one of those
Jones
little.
and Mike Naismith. And
Yeah, well, yeah, and yeah. I mean, technically, I guess Neil Diamond, because he wrote a couple other hits.
yeah, he sure did.
So yeah, you know, but it's so the moral of the story is that this movie is what it is, and
Yeah.
either you like it or you don't.
And there's an iconography to this movie. Like
Sure.
this movie is, like Jeff said. I mean, a lot of what you recognize Beatle-wise in their brand is in this movie, and that's important. And that
Even their sense of humor is captured.
Yes.
Even though they had nothing to do with the story, they didn't even record their voices.
right. And I chuckled a lot in this movie.
Sure.
I did. I chuckled throughout, honestly, because there is really funny, witty banter, but it's just the whole thing didn't come together for me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfectly fine. You know, I mean, it's yeah. Yeah. I mean,
We're not going to harp on this every time we disagree on a movie, though,
No.
are we? We gotta put a pin on this discussion at some point.
No, but I think that right now it is important.
It's so
because
important.
The internet is busting at the seams of people just wanting to fight one another over their dumb, insignificant opinion.
And we both
on so many things.
And we both feel it so strongly. We see it every day, and it's just like,
oh my god, how many times have we messaged each other just
Right.
about? It's like, oh my god, I can't believe that
can't-
so and so we know
Yeah.
has gone down this path.
Right,
Why
right.
do that?
So it's
Yeah.
you're right. We're harping on it again after Xanadu because it's so exhausting in our lives right now, and I hope you see it and recognize it, and it exhausts you too. And maybe we can all just fucking do something about it. Like, allow people to like and dislike the things that they like and dislike, and just maybe understand a little bit more why, and have like normal conversations like fucking normal people do, and be better friends.
Yeah.
We're
all in this
it's
together.
Pretty fucking easy to do. Yeah.
We did it for millennia.
Yeah.
Before the advent of Facebook. You know, we were getting along just fine.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe we are in a world where we are faced with people with opposing views more. But ask them why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of my very good friends is a conservative, and I'm
Yeah.
a liberal, and we know it.
Yeah.
And we disagree with one another on certain points. But never, ever, ever has anything come between us that is so that has anything to do with that we can't see or can't meet in the middle to say, yeah, well, you see it this way, I see it this way, and yeah, that's great, whatever.
Right.
You know, I mean, it takes all kinds of fruit to make a fruit salad.
Yeah.
You know?
Your friendship is more important.
Absolutely.
And by having an opposing viewpoint, you are able to enrich each other's lives with that viewpoint.
And we
that's
understand
great.
each other from it.
It's great. I mean, you can let that person know how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like, inform them, and then let them inform you. But don't let it fucking destroy your life.
Yeah, people spend a lot of time just banging away on keyboards at people.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All you need is love.
Oh, yeah, and
That's the point of this movie.
that's the whole point of the movie.
Boom, we nailed it.
Yeah.
I just knocked that shit out of the park.
Yes, you fucking did. Because it is absolutely right. That is the point of this movie. All you need is love. Love your enemy. Love your neighbor. Love your friend. Love your lover. Love fucking people. Just,
It's easy to love.
I get it.
It's wasteful to hate.
I get it. It's fucking
And-
hard. It's hard.
And maybe we're just a couple of SJW cucks that believe that, but I don't think so.
No, I don't either.
I don't think so. There are plenty
I
of
refuse to believe that.
There are plenty of people that I come in contact with every day who I know have a different opinion than me. That does not mean that I won't nod and smile at them if they make eye contact with me.
Right.
Because that's literally the least I can do in life and in society.
It's
so easy to do it.
And honestly, how good do you feel? Like when you give somebody a big smile, like a big genuine smile,
And
like like in
they
the drive-through at McDonald's,
Yeah.
at Starbucks, just give that person a smile.
Or a thank you.
Yeah.
A simple thank you and have a good day.
Yeah, it is literally the least you can do, and it means everything.
It's a split second out of your busy lives to do.
Yep.
And no life is too busy to do that.
Appreciate that the person you're interacting with is a human being just like you.
Yep. And we can beat back the blue meanies. The blue meanies does not have a political affiliation. They don't have an R or a D after their fucking names. They just had their opinion, and they saw it the other way.
Yeah.
And even the interaction in the movie, the Beatles and Jeremy in particular have interaction with the other blue meanies.
Yeah.
And they understand their point of view.
And they try to bring them into the fold, and they're like, "Hey,"
and they do in the end. Everybody lives happily.
Right? How can we see your side of things? How can you see our side of things?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to the table. Let's talk.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you love this movie. Boom. We win.
I don't.
No,
I've never watched this movie again.
I know.
But the message is good. It's a really fucking good message.
No, it is, and it's the proper message. It's a message that, honestly, I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you think is right for the world.
Yeah.
You were raised with this simple idea, probably from a loving parent or a parent figure.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge people that you come in contact with. Thank them for their whatever they've done. Holding the door for you. Say thank you. If you're talking on the phone, hang up the fucking phone and say thank you, or pull the phone away and say thank you, or whatever. I mean, whatever. Yeah. Life is a minute can take a long time, but life is relatively short.
Yeah.
Well, I think we fucking nailed this
one. That's a great way to end it. Let's end it there.
So next week we have The Last Dragon. Should be hitting your ear holes.
God fucking damn it! I love this.
Yeah,
I love Last Dragon. If I could hug a movie, it would be The Last Dragon. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I just want to give it a big bear hug.
Yeah. Here's a movie in which the Shogun of Harlem is such a bad guy, but you know what? Shown enough. But you know what? He has a point of view.
It's so fucking good. Bruce Leroy
Green.
Bruce Leroy Green. This movie is a gem. It's
yes,
a gem.
It is.
It is an underappreciated gem. You should fucking watch it before you listen to us talk about it.
Yes, and checks off so many boxes for me as a fan of kung fu, blaxploitation, 80s, everything that I love.
And it's like a family drama. It is a legitimate family film.
There's a little bit of comedy in there too, especially from the younger brother. It's great.
I hug it. I'm hugging myself, hugging that movie right
now. Then in August, we're gonna just kind of throw some stuff against the wall, see what happens there.
Yep.
We've got some Italian. We've got some animation coming.
Yeah.
We've got.
It's a grab bag.
It's a little bit of a grab bag, and then we've got a theme month coming in September.
Oh, stay tuned.
Yes,
stay tuned.
It's gonna be sexy.
It might get a little saucy.
It's a little steamy.
It might get a little saucy.
Yep. I might get to see some boobies.
Oh, boobies. Ooh.
And if I'm seeing it, then Jason's seeing it
we
too.
might get to see Bruce Willis's penis.
Oh my God! And the outline of Scott Bakula's cock in bicycle shorts.
This is all happening. We're gender neutral here. I mean, we have something for everyone on the podcast.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Well, I'm going to go in the sexy voice.
But we do like boobies. We like them because we're.
Oh yeah, like the boobies.
We like the boobies. But moving on
yes.
to closing this out.
Yes, so you can always see us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. It's at Film Seizure. You're always welcome to check out any of our episodes, any of our musings, writings, various such and suches at filmseizure.com. Every Wednesday, new episodes.
Yeah.
Freshly baked, piping hot. Coming right at your ear holes.
To your door, in your face.
It's like we show up with the pizza delivery truck. You open the door and we just throw the pizza in your face.
Yeah, we do. We just shove it right in your face.
Or maybe the proper thing would be like a banana cream pie.
Yeah.
That's we
Film
like.
Seizure, boom.
Boom.
Yeah.
We like that old timey humor sometimes.
Yeah, we do. It works.
So we'll see you next week for Barry Gordy's Last Dragon.
Yes.
I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.
It's all in the mind, you know.